All right, welcome to the Self-Belief Podcast, and I'm your host, Keith Baldwin, and I'm excited to do this episode because this makes a change from how we've been doing things to start with. We're 8 episodes into the Self-Belief Podcast and had some great guests, and we're just kind of really blown away by the hundreds of downloads we've had already and the feedback we've got. And we wanted to keep improving it and make it better for everyone who's taken the time to listen. So we're making the big leap to video, and so I've had to do my hair and everything today to try and make it work on the video. And we're just taking this time, 8 episodes in, as we're making a few changes, just to kind of recap kind of where we've been with the podcast, who we've spoken to, and kind of where we're going. And I'd like to thank Nathan, who was the co-host, and he's had to, as we've grown and put more time into this podcast, he's had to step away. But I'm very excited to introduce our new host, and that is Jordanna. Welcome.
Thank you, Keith. I'm so happy to be here.
Was that a hint of an English accent you tried there?
No.
No, okay.
I can't do any accents. It always comes out a little more redneck.
Okay, that's right. When I try and do my American, I sound very Texan for some reason. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Jordanna. Obviously, I've got to know you through some of your work that you've done, but tell us what you do.
Absolutely. So I own a company called Jack Digital, and we're a one-stop shop agency for social media, and we really focus in Metro Detroit. We, of course, have clients everywhere, but in Metro Detroit, we offer services where we actually go film your content for you. So if you post 3 days a week, 12 pieces of content is already created for you. No stress, just fun.
There we go. Social media should be fun, right?
It should be fun. It should not be stressful.
That's right. Less stress, the better.
Yes.
Now, we are at a new location. We're at in Troy, Michigan. We're actually, one of our sponsors is Office Evolution of Troy. They're a professional co-working space who specialize in private offices with mail and phone services, and they're conveniently located at I-75 and Big Beaver. And we're really happy to be here as our new podcast home. Now, one of the things we wanted to do today was explain the reason behind the podcast, how it came to be, and what we're looking to achieve with it. And I personally came up with the idea in early May as I was thinking different ways to promote my business. I own Regal Payments to be a full-service merchant processing company. But through owning that business for 14 years, I've met a lot of business owners. I also came to the States as a soccer player, and I coached travel teams and met a lot of people through the soccer community, and just a lot of interesting people I've met in the Detroit area. And I listened to a few podcasts, and there's one in England called the High Performance Podcast, where they talk to national figures about what they think high performance is. And I just felt that I know a lot of really interesting people in Michigan and Southeast Michigan, and be more interesting for me maybe to do that on a local level rather than just the big stars. I know a lot of people and stars have podcasts these days, and it's great to hear from one of the top actors in Hollywood, but maybe it's a little bit more relatable if it's someone in your community who's done a profession that maybe you're interested in, or maybe it's just a new profession to you that surprises you when you find out things. So that was the idea. And as we started thinking about it more, I felt like self-belief was a good theme, because if you run a business, and most of our guests will be business owners, but not necessarily everyone, but whatever position you've got to, you've obviously been through challenges, and we all have different challenges. We all face them and overcome them in different ways. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk to people about how they've done that. But we've tried to frame the questions and take the direction of the interviews in a more interesting way. We try and put some time into it rather than just say, tell us about a hard time. We try and find out what that hard time is, and we really try and dig into it with our guests. I know, Jordanna, you've had a chance to listen to quite a few of them.
I really like them. Honestly, I learned so much, and there's a lot of really good themes like culture and community.
Yeah. Yeah, and from speaking to Jordanna, we thought this would be a great way to have a fairly short episode this week, just to let everyone know about the new direction we're taking the podcast in. But if you haven't had long drives to Chicago and back where you can listen to all the episodes, we wanted to kind of chat about them a little bit and some of the themes that really stood out to us in the episodes. And I know from listening, our first episode was with Mamba, who owns Baobab Fair. And that was an episode that had a pretty good impact on you. And you were quite impressed by his story.
Yeah, honestly, I loved how like he was a refugee and he came to America and really how he built his business with community. Like he was at Freedom House and then like he's really kind of grown his business and like he's had a lot of grants, he's had some help, but like really like to have an amazing story. Community is so key. I always tell that to my clients in social media even. It's like you have to create that community. You want people to come into the restaurant, you want people to watch your social media.
Right. It's not about, I mean, especially downtown Detroit now, you've got so many great restaurants with great food. But in
Yeah.
a way, if you're just going for a great meal, you're almost spoiled for choice. It's a nice thing about going to his restaurant is you feel a bit connected to his story, to his food, obviously, and the culture and the community he's built. And that's really helped him grow. And he's now doing that with food trucks and other things. So, yeah, I definitely took that from there, that the need to build community, it has to be more of a why to get behind the product rather than just the quality of the product these days, no matter what industry you're in.
Exactly. You can always have good food, but it's the way you present it, and it's really that community you're creating.
Yeah. One other thing from Mamba, and I was chatting with someone else about it, they noticed he was very much about, we have a problem, we solve the problem, and I'm
Yes.
ready for the next problem.
Yes.
And it's like, it's almost a bit, certainly not depressing's the wrong word or negative's the wrong word, but he's just waiting for problem. But I think that's just his organized way of doing it, and nothing really kind of rocks his boat that way. If you know
Exactly.
challenges are coming and you feel you've developed your skill set for handling those challenges.
He was like, I solved this problem, the next one's coming.
Yeah. So hopefully they become less each time.
Yes.
But, as you grow and as you do well, then there's different problems. And as he mentioned at the end, expand into potentially another location, another food truck. So, it's been great to keep in touch with him and wish him much success.
Yes.
What was another episode you liked?
I really liked the Premier Pet episode. I loved how he talked about how he started with the one store and he took it from his uncle. And he started really growing really small. And then he really wanted to get other people involved by giving them a piece of the business. So he partnered with his cousins and his brothers and other people to really create new locations. And for me, like my dog's name is Ziggy and we go to Premier Pet all the time. And I love to support local. And the fact that they have a bath place is amazing. And like, I just love his story that he's like, hey, I could sell to a big PetSmart, but I really want to keep it in the family. I really want to keep it local. And I loved how he talked about work culture, because that is so key. In every business, you have to have culture and you have to have people wanting to work there, or they're going to treat it like a job and nothing's going to grow.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The culture is so important. And one of our upcoming guests, I used to actually work with him many, many years ago. And the culture there is about opportunity and growth. And when you go into a business and you feel, whether you're a young 20-something, that you can grow and there's opportunity, that every day, even when you're tired or other things are going on, it gives you such boost, such energy. I've been lucky enough not to really have, maybe a couple of my teenage times, a job where you go in, it's 9 a.m. and you're like, when is it 5 p.m.? But I haven't had many of those. So the culture is so key.
It's so important. Like I'm really working that in my business this year, like really trying to get the culture like right where I want it to be, because everybody can be gung-ho about the business.
Yeah. The one main takeaway I had from Mike was just, as a young person, having worked in there, and obviously when you're in your early 20s, as he was working in his uncle's store, you are sometimes overly optimistic, which is a good thing. And the offer he made to his uncle of sell me the store, 50% of it, and you'll work less and you'll own less, but you'll make more. And it was a pretty bold statement, but I think he obviously had a presentation ready to show his uncle enough for his uncle to believe that and sell him the store and go from there. And like you say, he didn't just buy it and start doing well and then it was like, let's expand. He really consolidated for 10 plus years.
He really tried his best. And like, honestly, that's all you can ask for. Like, you got to start somewhere and you got to go from there. If you get too big too fast, you also lose that culture and that community.
Yeah. Now, talking about a culture and developing a culture, one of the people I know who's got one of the strongest cultures is Thad with Zott Auto Dealerships. He just exudes a positive energy. I've known him and I've been in many of his dealerships. These people greet you in a certain way. There's a certain positivity and engagement around the place. What did you get from Thad's 2 interviews that we split up?
So I thought he was very interesting, and I really loved that he drilled into his employees like, listen, you need to open the door regardless. And I love that I love kind of his story growing up of how he didn't know he wanted to be in the business, and then really got into the business when he was at Michigan State and came back to help his dad. And like, really, he's like, listen, like people can buy cars online, but it's that customer service. Like people don't have 7 years to wait for the oil change. Like I thought that it was super key, and like I loved how he treats his employees, how they have all different trainings. It was very interesting to me. And I also love the auto show episode talking about like how much goes into it, and how like there is a lot of pressure lately with the Teslas of the world, but it's like you can still have a place in the market.
Yeah. Yeah, for Thad, he really drilled home the point about making it his own. You
Yep.
know, it's a family business. I think for anyone listening who is part of a family business and you're potentially going to be taking it over one day, is there's the extra pressure of, you know, hey, you were born with this, and you know, but that certainly isn't what happened with Thad. He went out, he worked at another car
He's a hard
dealership, he
worker.
came back and he did it. He put his own stamp on it and collaborated. His dad's kind of retired, but still involved a little bit. And him and his brother and sister have really taken it and ran with it.
It's really honestly amazing how much they've done.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said with the auto show as well, I thought that was very interesting. A different type of management, you know, manage your own dealership, but now you're managing other people, other big egos who manage their own dealerships, and now you've got to bring them together. And then they obviously talked about, like you mentioned with the Teslas, some people were like, get them out of here, and he's like, well, we got to embrace them, we got to bring it
Exactly.
in, and you know, not just shut the door. There's room for everyone if we do it well.
Yeah, I mean, like he was super interesting. Like even when he's like they have the test track at the auto show. Also with that episode, it was very interesting that he basically said that, you know, Detroit's not necessarily going to get the auto show. We have to push for it, and like there's a lot of work and there's a lot of partnership behind that.
Yeah, yeah. And then from Thad, one of our first interviews actually that we recorded, we released him forth, was Dave. And Dave's actually been our most downloaded episode. I don't know whether
wow.
I don't know whether that's just the fact people see the picture of Aiden Hutchinson, or I'm a sports guy. Maybe people relate to sports, but Dave had a lot of interesting things to say, and obviously he's grown that business over 10 years, and now a lot of the top NFL, NHL guys train with him. What were some things you picked up from Dave's episode?
So it's so interesting how basically he was like, listen, like when he started it, he had to put a certain amount of money in it, and like he kept investing back into his business, and like even though he has a lot of celebrity clients and a lot of NFL clients, he really puts the feedback in there. He's like, hey, I want to help you, and I want to help you grow. And I love that when he talked about COVID times where, like he said, he was definitely struggling, but then like he had the drive to move forward, and like he had a lot going on, as he was saying in that episode, if you listen back, but like he made it work. He's like, I'm going to do everything I can to make this work.
Yeah. Yeah, and Dave is such a genuine guy, and I've actually been in Mecca a few times and seen him coaching, and the way he encourages people and celebrates as they do a big lift or a good set is really helps motivate them for the hour. And then before, obviously, they do the hour workout, he's sat down, he's talked with them, he's gone through their nutrition and the sleep patterns.
Which is so key. I honestly never really thought about like how key sleep is for like working out and like losing weight or gaining weight.
Yeah. Gotta have your rest.
Oh, yes.
And one more thing I did think about Dave is when we were talking about hiring, I've often found myself talking to, I guess, about good hires or a time when maybe you got hiring wrong. And I think it was easy as he expanded to be like, okay, you've got all these personal trainer certificates, you're hired, you know, because on paper, you know what to do. But those people didn't fit his culture. Again, there's another guest coming back to culture. And, you know, you can always have a decent product, but if you really want a product that's going to be enhanced, it's got to be delivered in a great culture.
100%. I mean, as we learned from all these episodes, community, even like Jen Rebel, talking about that.
Rebel Nell?
Yeah, Rebel Nell.
Okay.
Yeah. So Jen from Rebel Nell.
Amy from Rebel Nell. Jen was the other guest. Jen was the other.
Yes.
Okay.
So Amy from Rebel Nell, like even with her, it was like culture and community. Those are the biggest things. And like really, honestly, all these episodes making your employees think that they're like and want them to be a part of the culture so they keep growing and instead of just having a 9-to-5 job. And I've really tried that in my business. And Keith, I'm sure you have in yours. It's so important, especially these days.
Yeah. Yeah, so that brings us on to Amy's episode. And one nice thing with the first 8 episodes, apart from some really nice feedback, is we've really encouraged some constructive criticism. Mm-hmm. And I feel we're going to keep the episodes around 45 minutes to 50 minutes. If they do go long, like the one with Val, which I'm excited to come on to in a minute, then we'll probably split them into 2 parts. But one thing I did with Amy, I talked to her quite a bit about her upbringing and where she's from. And I feel, maybe that went a little bit long, but I really wanted to get that feel for her about why she was so passionate at 14 to come out of her small town and, be in the Major League Baseball industry.
Yeah, that was her story is amazing. Like how she went from baseball to like what she's doing now, graffiti jewelry. The change is awesome, and like it's just like she really learned from like being in baseball and how she wanted to help people.
Yeah, and I think for I say younger people, and hopefully I can include people of my age in there in the 40s. It's quite common for us to pivot, do different things, to be in many different industries. My parents are in their 70s, and my mum's still got kind of that thinking of, I think you go in one industry and you stay in there forever.
But that's just not how it's like it these days.
Right.
I feel like if you're not passionate, you're not happy with what you're doing, it's okay to make a change.
Yeah, I think it's okay, and it's not just okay. I think it's the right thing to do, but there's a way to pivot, and there's a few of our guests that we have lined up that have done that, and we'll be exploring that with them. But Amy, again, culture, social mission attached to it, not just the product. It is great jewelry. If you looked at it, you think this is great jewelry at a very good price point, but then you see the story behind it, and you like it. And then talking of my parents in their 70s, my mom has quite a few bits of those jewelry.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was honestly amazing how, like, she really has the passion behind it and how she actually went to Joe Louis and she took some of that graffiti and, like, how she really wants to try to expand. It's just so amazing. Like, her social mission to help people and have different people in her facility is just amazing.
Yeah. Now, our most recent episode is with Jen Litimiski, who is the CEO of Ronald McDonald House Charities of Detroit. And we talked to Jen about the charity, and I felt it was interesting how much charities are about sales. Resonated with me a little bit. There was back in my early 20s, there was a girl I dated in Oregon, and she was in the nonprofit sector. And one day, we didn't date that long, but she kind of just slammed sales. I don't respect sales.
Oh, man.
I don't really respect kind of what you do. I was like, I was doing something slightly different, but it wasn't, it was very ethical. It was just, I was like, well, nonprofit, you still kind of got to raise money. And, but that relationship petered out. But the more I looked into, obviously, charities and what they do, you're selling because you have to get that donation to your charity. As Jen mentioned, there's a huge amount of charities in Michigan. It's one of the largest states for charities and galas. So you have to be a great salesperson to run a nonprofit.
You really do. It's like most people think Ronald McDonald House is sponsored purely by McDonald's, but it's only partly sponsored. And like you have to get sponsorships other place. And I thought that episode was so amazing how she talks about how she helps families, brings them together, and like she really does all the fundraising. Also, for that episode, she lives in my neighborhood, and I'm super excited to drive by her house because I got to see her Halloween decorations.
Yeah, I actually did go there on this weekend. She had a Halloween party.
Amazing.
And the yard is very impressive.
I need to drive by. But no, other than that, in the episode, like, she was so inspiring how she really worked in the nonprofit space. And I thought that, like, that's amazing what she does and how she's really trying to build her own team. And, like, really, the Ronald McDonald House is so important for families and people when they're having so many issues. And, like, they really just need a place to shower and really have a cup of soup when their kids are struggling. And the Ronald McDonald House really does amazing things for that. And, like, Jen's, like, the leader in Michigan.
Yeah. And just to touch on culture as well, one of her biggest struggles was the first few years. There was
Yeah.
board members who hadn't quite got over the fact that a new CEO had been brought in, Jen at the time, and she tried to change their minds in a number of ways, but ultimately they were stuck. And sometimes, I've experienced it when people are set in a mindset and it may not be factually correct and there's different emotions involved. It's hard to do. And she eventually realized she just needed to move those people on, get new board members to really help establish the culture she wanted.
Yeah, and now she said she's a really great team, and like eventually when she decides to retire, she's gonna have great people, and they always think outside of the box. So she definitely hired the right people now.
Yeah. And that brings us on to one of the last episodes that we haven't talked about is Val Newman. And as I say, that was our longest episode, and we maybe should have split that in two. But please don't be daunted when you see it an hour and a half to not listen. Give Val a try, because that episode is very interesting, because she's talking not just about the case she's won at the Supreme Court.
That was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we'll touch on that, but she was also talking about her advocacy, women in the workplace. She was then obviously letting us know about the wrongful convictions as well. So, yeah, let's talk about the Supreme Court part of the interview. What did you like about that?
So it was really an amazing story, and I love that she was preparing for the Supreme Court when, like, I can't remember that guy's name, but he was wrong. Like, the lawyer basically gave him bad advice.
Right.
And I thought it was so interesting that she was able to tell, like, people would call her up and say, hey, I want to take your case. Like, you're not very good at this. And like, she was like, no, I have to help that guy. At the end of the day, for her, I feel like it was not about recognition. It's because she really wanted to help him.
Yeah. I mean, she felt, and I felt about this in a few things in my career, that no one could bring the passion and energy to the case that she was going to bring.
100%.
Sure, there'll be other well-qualified lawyers. There'll be people with all the qualifications to do that case, but they couldn't bring the passion, the energy, and the desire that she was going to bring.
I mean, passion is also another key for all the episodes that you've done so far. Like, passion is huge as well, along with community and culture. Like, you have to have passion for what you do. And like, she loves helping people. And she really is very interested in helping people move forward and like really get people to really understand and the legal system and really help people.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on that theme of helping people, on the theme of helping people, now she's fully into not the Innocence Project. It's similar. It's now called the Conviction Integrity Unit at Wayne County's Prosecutor's Office. And I've watched many different documentaries. I know there's a lot of wrongful convictions out there, but just hearing her go through it makes you realize there's so much more.
It really is.
There's so many more than you think, and there should be. And it's just, it's quite astounding, really.
Yeah, and honestly, she's amazing for what she's doing, because not everybody could do that.
Yeah. And we like to think, for comfort, that the legal system works, everything's going to be okay, and you're sure there's a mistake. We all make mistakes, but like she said with the plane crash analogy, you wouldn't go take a flight if you knew today 5% of flights were going to crash.
Very true.
So we should get out of our comfort zone and keep working to make sure everything's better, including the legal system.
Exactly, and like also for the Supreme Court, what also stuck out to me is that she said that she would walk into certain courtrooms and the judge would be like just flirting with her, and like how inappropriate that was. And like, really, that was only 10 years ago. So it really makes you think that times really have changed on one end for ladies and women, but they also haven't, because you should be taken seriously just as a man if you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
Anybody really.
Yeah, and having spoken to, more about those incidents, it's, even if it's not a direct intention to fully flirt, it's just a lot of filler conversation that they wouldn't have with a guy.
No.
And it's just,
they want to pull you in the back room, be like, hi, let's chat today.
Yeah. And it undermined her her authority in a way, because then people are coming out and she's having to walk back in, and it's like we've wasted 20 minutes. And it's I did also like what she said about women choosing to fight it or not fight it. I feel like and obviously you could probably speak to this a bit more, that you should fight it, but it's okay if you don't feel ready to fight it and you fight it your own way.
Exactly. No, it's right. Like, not everybody wants to go and make a big stand and say, hey, like, you should treat me this way. But again, like, you have to do what you're comfortable with. And you definitely want to fight it. But again, if you don't just shut everything down, then you're able to do it in your own way.
Yeah. So they've been now 8 episodes so far, and we've got a lot more interesting guests coming up. We've got people who run a sales and outside marketing firm. Someone who actively creates leadership cultures for CEOs is another guest. We got a gentleman who's owned an English Premier soccer team.
I'm excited.
And he runs baseball teams. And we also have a few other guests in a few different industries. We're getting booked up pretty good. And we do have a mayor coming in, which just sounds very important to me.
Yeah, no,
I
love it.
You know.
I'm really excited for the coffee. I hope he brings us coffee when we film the episode with him.
Yeah, so also we have Frank Chazano of Hazano Coffee coming in. And talking about pivoting, he is a guy, and you'll hear in his episode being released in the next couple of weeks, who was doing one industry, started roasting coffee at home, and then left that other industry to go open up a premium coffee brand.
That's amazing. I mean, like most people these days, honestly, they don't really do what they went to school for. They pivot all the time, and like that's what. Also, I feel like going back to self-belief, like if you're gonna believe in yourself, you have to pivot. Like for me, like I am my own biggest motivator and my own biggest hater. And like I've had to pivot so many times over the last 6 years, but you know what? It's always made out in the end. And like I'm very excited to learn and listen to more of these guests and figure out how they pivoted, how they believed in themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting because we've all done it in our own way, and just to hear how they've done it as well is great.
It's very inspiring.
Well, we appreciate everyone who's taken time to download and listen to the episodes, and we really welcome any feedback. Feel free to email hosts@selfbeliefpodcast.com. You can obviously go to our website at selfbeliefpodcast.com. With Jordanna on the team, our social media sites will be...
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited.
we'll be blowing up, and we will be getting a YouTube channel as well. And anything you want to add, Jordanna?
No, I'm very excited. Thank you for having me on as your co-host, Keith, and I'm excited to see what we can do this year, and excited to have you listen and have more guests and insightful topics.
All right. We're excited and look forward to the next episode a week on Tuesday. Thank you.